just got the call. I'm fighting in Seattle.
Family starts booking their travel because they're coming in from Alaska, which is only a 3.5-4 hour flight from.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Primo for first round to send me over the contract. And all Sunday goes by, no contract. At like 4 p.m., we get a call. And the call is the opponent declined the fight. Mm-hmm. It was like everything just crushed down.
We're live. Welcome back to a kick-ass love story. We took a little hiatus.
Yep.
We did some construction in the speakeasy, added all of our fight gear and fight kits. You can't see all of it, but yeah, it's all around the room. A little bit bummed out though.
We kind of fucked up.
We did.
Yeah.
I got all of this finished like a week before you got the call for the UFC.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna have to move some things around and make some adjustments because I feel like your UFC debut needs to be above my UFC debut.
Yeah,
because this is my UFC debut, and I just think those are obviously iconic moments. So we're gonna have to make a few adjustments in here, but super happy we're back.
We're back. Yeah. Man, we're finally settled back in on Tuesday. We got in early yesterday morning and had shit going on. We've got like just a little break before we have to hit the road again
for Power Slap. But I want to, of course, you've done interviews all day yesterday talking about the UFC debut, but now we have like our moment to talk about it, long form, no time constraints. I want to like really talk about how crazy of a week we just went through.
Yeah.
Getting the UFC call, the notice, everything that happened prior to that, and where we are now, and you're still like riding the high. So.
Yeah. It's I find like little moments here and there where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's what I just did. But for the most part, it's still just kind of like going and still processing everything.
Yeah, you'll be on the high for a while. And then you're gonna get the call for the next UFC fight, and it'll be like game time and business. But so we were at practice. This was Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
So exactly 7 days before UFC fight night.
Yeah.
And I was even talking to you. I was like, hey, you know what? It's in Seattle. We could go see some family. We could just go back to the Pacific Northwest and try to touch base with people and just go to the fights.
Go watch.
It's been a while since we've been at UFC fights. And you were like, no, I know I'm going to get something short notice. I really don't want to travel right now.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. No big deal. So then Saturday we go to practice.
Yep.
We had, like a kickboxing, it's like a kind of a fast-paced, heavy, like
it's like a sparring class. It's like a sparring / conditioning class, and we hit that, and then we did strength and conditioning right after, which we never do.
We never hit both on Saturday because it's kind of our lighter day.
But in hindsight, thank God we did. So we had a hard training session Saturday. The whole week we had a really good week, and went really hard. So Saturday we got home. We knew the fight was a week away, that the Seattle card. So kind of came to terms like, we had held out a little bit of hope. Maybe I was going to get on it.
Yeah.
And, but then of course, 7 days out, you're like, there's no way now. And, so we were making plans like, well, what should we do tonight? The fights were going to be on. There was a card that Saturday too. Like, well, we could go get dinner.
Get dinner, but get home from practice, and we were exhausted because it was a hard week of training, and then we did back-to-back training sessions. So we both get home, get our dogs on the couch, both fall asleep and take a nap, and then all of a sudden your phone rings.
Yeah, it was like 5 p.m. I was kind of just coming out of the nap, and I could feel my phone buzzing, and so I was like, I wonder who's calling, and I look up at my phone, and it's Sean Shelby. And I'm like, oh shit, I should probably take this call.
Yeah, you should probably take that.
You were still kind of asleep, and so I hopped up really quick.
Well, and I knew it was important because you didn't say who it was.
Yeah.
But you look at your phone, and you're like one of those dudes that when you're on the phone, you pace, and you'll like do a mile around the house.
Yeah.
And just pace on the phone.
Yeah, I'm a walk and talker.
So I see you get up and immediately pick your phone up and go outside and start your pacing, and I'm like, okay, this is important.
Yeah. And I mean, basically, Sean was the matchmaker for the UFC. He was like, hey, we had an injury for this coming Saturday. I know it's really short notice. If you can make weight, I'm offering you the fight." And immediately I was like, yes, done. Whatever. I'll make
Wait,
155 if I have to.
let's go even prior to this. I'm going to
Yeah.
backtrack because we, through the media, heard a rumor that that fight was in jeopardy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we get a phone call and they're like, hey, start pushing for you to be the fill-in. And this was like 2 weeks prior.
No, this was a few days
Oh, a
prior.
few
Yeah.
days. So we're like, okay. And so we reach out. And all of our like inside sources, management teams and people within the UFC, they're like, no, that fight's not off.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's hurt. No one's the fight's still on as far as I know. And us are like, I kind of felt like an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
damn, we were like pushing for
this fight that's not even off.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is you've already fought and beaten one of the guys that was
the guy
matchup.
who got hurt. Yeah. I had already fought and beat. And, so yeah, I was like, damn, I mean, if he falls off, let me step in. I beat that guy. Let me get in. And but yeah,
continue. Saturday, you get the phone call.
Yeah, so we get the call on Saturday at like 5 p.m. Of course, I accept immediately, and then there we are. I'm in the UFC. I'm gonna fight this Saturday or coming Saturday. And it was like such a high moment. And, I'm calling all my family like, guys, I just got the call. I'm fighting in Seattle.
Family starts booking their travel because they're coming in from Alaska, which is only a 3.5-4-hour flight from Seattle. So we have everybody just going to work. I book an Airbnb for your family. Everyone's booking their flights. This was like, we just obviously jumped the gun a little because you didn't get a contract yet, but
yeah. So then all Saturday night goes by, and in my mind, I was like, I probably won't get a contract today, right? Because they had the fight card, everyone's busy in the UFC and all that. And I knew there were some things that need to be worked out as far as the contract goes and all that. So then Sunday rolls around and I'm just waiting Sunday. I'm like, okay, I'll definitely get the contract today. I'm waiting for Primo for first round to send me over the contract. And all Sunday goes by, no contract. At this point, I'm still like, well, it was the weekend. They just got done with the fight, all this. Well, then Monday comes and, of course we had told our coaches and everyone. And so I was, from the moment I got the call Saturday, started my weight cut protocol and training regimen like that. Well, so Monday comes around, train Monday morning, and I still haven't gotten a contract yet.
But remember on Monday too, then I get a call saying, hey, can you do Power Slap in Vegas?
Yes.
And I'm like on this high. I'm like, yes, my husband's going to make his UFC debut. This is going to be sick. I'll do Power Slap 2 weeks later. So I signed my contract.
Yeah, you get a contract immediately.
Immediately. I get after I said yes, I get it at the same time, sign it. And I'm like, let's go. This is going to be so fun. And I'm already like, slimming down because you're kind of in like your camp and it's fun. We sauna together and everything. So yeah. Now all of a sudden we're Monday. You still don't have a contract. I just signed mine.
Yeah.
And we're in this crazy high.
And that's when I was like, okay, this is weird. She got hers already, like, and I haven't gotten mine. So Monday at like 4 p.m., I'm doing a little bit of studying on the opponent that they had sent me and kind of game planning a little bit. And then we get a call at 4 p.m. And the call is the opponent declined the fight. Mm-hmm. And it was like everything just crushed down on me. I was like, fuck, we had got all this hyped up and but thankfully like 15 minutes later, they call me right back. Hey, we got another opponent, someone to fill in. Will you take this? Of course. Yes, we'll do it.
Yeah.
This is like 5 p.m. on Monday. Then at 9 p.m., we're still waiting. I'm like, okay, I should get a contract now, right?
We agreed to an opponent. Where's the contract?
9, we get another call. That guy's not going to be able to make weight and do it. So at that point, like Monday night, I was kind of defeated. Like, okay, it probably not going to happen. I got pumped up. In my mind, though, I was like, it still is good because obviously they called me. So I know that I'm going to get something in the future.
Yeah. And at that point, it was like such chaos where I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's for the best. We're supposed to fly out at 7 a.m. tomorrow. we don't have a pet sitter. We don't have all this figured out. Like, maybe it'll be best. Maybe you'll get another short notice call and be on the UFC card after I power slap.
Yeah, we were talking about
like,
that as an option.
That could be really cool too. So we're just trying to like stay positive through it all. And we had 7 a.m. flights on Tuesday. This is Monday night. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cancel them.
Yep.
And I rebooked for the evening just in case. So I was like, let's just stay the course. I'm going to make sure we have flights just in case. And luckily we did.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Monday night was the hardest part because I was like 2 days into my nutrition plan, and for me, I do a big water load.
Yeah.
So I had already done 2 days of like drinking 2 gallons of water, and Monday night I was sick of water already. And
you're like, no, I should just be done with this.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, I should just be done. So we get up Tuesday morning. I had already planned out a training schedule for that just in case. And so I go to the gym Tuesday, workout. We still hadn't gotten anything figured out yet. And it was right after practice. I got a call it
wasn't, because after practice I text our managers. I was like, okay, do we get on this flight or not? Like,
yeah,
I need to know. And then I was like, you know what? Let's pack. I was like, I'm packing everything. Just go, like, do everything as if you have a fight. So we get everything packed. We get everything in the car. And I'm like, worst case scenario, we drive to the airport and we just drive home. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. So no, it was so I went in, I'd scheduled my haircut. I always do my haircut right before. And I was sitting in the barber chair and I see Primo start calling me. So I tell the barber, like, hey, I got to take this call. And I take it and they're like, yo, okay, you're in. It's the same guy from last night who said he couldn't make weight. He can do it at a catch weight at 175 if you're down. And of course, we're like, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So fine. It wasn't until like noon, 1 o'clock on Tuesday that we knew
for sure that you were in. And I think there was a little bit of like disappointment with the catch weight, just because you have been working so hard for so long, making sure you were ready to make 170 on short notice, that I was like, one, just being able to prove like, look, it's no big deal for me to make weight on short notice, which I believe the UFC knows that. Everybody knows it wasn't on your end to do the catch weight, but just what a crazy whirlwind of emotions.
So yeah, I finished up the haircut. We get home. Of course, the contract's right there. We sign everything. And really, I mean, we head straight to the airport from there and go on. And then that's when stuff like starts blowing up. Like Austin signs with the UFC. He's going to make his debut. Seattle still, I was having people hit me up like, yo, congratulations on getting in the UFC. When's your next fight? And I'm texting everyone, actually, I'm fighting in 4 days. And everyone's like, what? And going on. And man, it was just, it didn't hit me until we were at the airport. And it was like, okay, here we go. And it was kind of so many different emotions and like thought processes going through. And it was, I'll say, like at the airport, it was almost a little overwhelming. Just, it hit me like, fuck, I finally just got this, but I'm going to be fighting in 4 days. I got to make weight in 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. And,
but I knew from my like experience in the UFC that once we landed and you're in the UFC's like control, everything would go smoothly.
Yeah.
Just because, when their promotion is there's so much organization, they're behind the scenes, they're like the crew, the people that they have working for them are so professional and they have everything down to a T and to a science. There's no question. So you wouldn't have to get there and be like, okay, well, where's my schedule? What do I have now? And there's no question. So it was just getting to the UFC and then everything was going to be just smooth and easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get there and of course, being short notice, I had to do medical stuff. That was probably the worst part of the whole thing.
Worst day.
Yeah. Is that very next day, I think Wednesday, having to like get all my medical shit done. And
while you're cutting weight, having to go do an MRI, go to get your blood work, which of course they have tried to do a schedule, but anybody who has to do regular blood work, those places are a disaster.
Yeah.
And so it ended up you were there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I dropped you off. I went to like Whole Foods to get any last minute things that we needed that we forgot and running errands, trying to walk the dogs because we had to bring both dogs to
Yeah.
fight week. And then you were like, all right, hey, I'm going to be here for a while. Will you bring me my meals to the lab core? So I'm like Ubering all over the city trying to get you your food to get to
Yeah.
the lab core. And you're like, wait, hold on. They're finally taking me back.
Yeah. Yeah. Just crazy. But to your point, like the UFC being so good and, any other promotion, it would have been even more of a disaster. Like,
For sure.
and so I think for me, like mentally, with everything just going so fast, I never even really had time to process things, and it was business from the time like we got there. It was never sitting back like, okay, this is what's going
Yeah.
on. It was just like, hey, I gotta do this, I gotta do
Boom.
this, gotta do this, and
And I
and
think
going
you
on.
were really good at especially those like downtime moments of having to like run around the city getting your blood work done or run around the city doing, all the medicals and then all of a sudden waiting to do your photo shoot and they have to like have your whole uniform printed while we're waiting there because this was like 4 days notice. So
Yeah.
they had to, print your uniform, get everything made but the whole process, like I would say I want to know your reflection. Like, did you like did you love every second? Because I just felt like I was hyping it up to you so much. Like, you're
Yeah.
just gonna love this.
Yeah. No, I did for sure. I've done a lot of work mentally and really, this sport is so I was reading over some of my stuff and it's like, before a fight happens, in training and stuff, it's 90% physical, 10% mental. And then on the day of competition, it's 90% mental, 10% physical. And without a doubt, that's the way. That is 100% how it goes. And so, thankfully I've done a lot of work like mentally and I've gone over the reps in my head like all so many times that it never felt overwhelming or
Mhm.
anything. And it was just I wanted to remember to enjoy, all this because it that's what all this is about, is the memories that we make doing this,
Yes.
and that was to me, that was the most important thing of the week, is create good memories and just have fun doing this, and I truly the whole week was just fun
It was
for
so
me.
fun. And so we get in, so let's go back to the week where, we land late Tuesday night. You had all of that to do Wednesday.
Yep.
And then Thursday you had a little bit more time. The only thing Thursday was
The pre-fight interviews.
pre-fight interview.
Yeah.
So, you can't just sit around the hotel room. I know there's like obviously we've talked to some fighters who choose to stay in their hotel room all week,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're someone who likes to get out of the hotel room to clear your head. So Seattle luckily was beautiful and there was no rain on Thursday. So we went down to the Pike Place Market
Yeah.
and we're walking around. And of course, I'm not cutting weight.
Yeah.
So I'd like sneak in. I'm like, do you care if I have some dumplings? Because they had the best food there. So I'm like going, I'm like slurping my little dumplings. And then you were like, you know what? I just want to watch you eat.
Yeah.
So we went to a sushi restaurant and you sat there and just watched me eat sushi. And
Yeah.
it ended up being like a really fun day. You had your, pre-fight interview with like the commentary team on Thursday. And then it was weight cut time.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me too, I think, my mentality for fight weeks and stuff is I think back to, like, Thai fighters, like, guys who fight every week or, and it's like, getting into the mindset of this is just an everyday thing, because for us it really is. I mean, you go to practice every day, you train every day, you fight, and of course it's practice and stuff, but there's still an element to that where you got to get your head right and you got to go
Yeah.
into practice, because you know uh, the majority of my injuries are,
At
a lot of
practice.
guys injuries are at practice, and so
Well, that was like me on the way to sparring this morning, like putting on the pump up music,
yeah.
like because even though it's not a fight, it still is it's fight simulation where you can get hurt and you want to
Yep.
perform your best. And when you get in like bad positions, stay confident, stay like, have a positive mindset to like, move on to the next
Yeah.
round.
Yeah, and not to say that there's, especially during fight week, not more like mental preparation and stuff like that. But I think personally, I like to make it seem more of, it's not necessarily special. It's an important situation. And live like an everyday life and don't change things up too much.
Yeah.
And that helps me out mentally, like getting through all
Getting
that
through it
stuff.
all.
So yeah, so we go, we make weight easy Friday.
Yep.
I think I ended up after we stopped. Well, I woke up that morning like 2 pounds over or
Yeah.
something. And so we did a little weight cut. I think I even got all the way down to like 173. And then we put on a little bit more weight. But before weigh-ins. But I could have easily made 170
Yeah.
right
Oh,
there. Like
easily.
it took like
Well,
15
because
minutes.
normally on weigh-in day, you know, you get suited up, you go down to the workout room or sauna, and you do this whole we do this whole weight cut, you know, formula and protocol if it's a sauna or whatever you
Yeah.
like. And that's what we normally do for you. But that morning you woke up and you were like only 2 pounds over to
Yeah.
whatever, and I was like, no, get in the bathtub.
Yeah.
I ab leaned your whole body in a non-sexual way.
Yeah.
And got you in the bathtub, and I made sure I got fully submerged in the bathtub to test the temperature,
Yeah.
because that is one of the mistakes that a lot of that I have had, not from coaches or from people in the past, where you just stick your finger in and you're like, oh yeah, perfect, that's hot, you can handle that.
Yeah.
Then no, you have to have your whole body in it to
Yeah.
feel how hot it is.
Yeah.
So get you in, you ended up losing all the weight in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is really frustrating, because that amount of weight would take me 2 hours.
Yeah, I think I ended up doing it was like 5 pounds in 15 minutes or
Yeah,
something
which is
crazy like that.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's a testament to your physicality, because
Yeah.
the more muscle mass you have, the leaner you are, the more water you have to lose, and you can do it faster.
Yep. And just staying really strict on, because a big mistake people make is especially catch weight stuff. I know what my body can do. I know where I was at, like with the numbers and getting to 170 and all this. And so people will let up and, maybe, I'll eat this. Cause
Or it's a catch weight
usually,
because it's so easy. Yeah, or
yeah.
it's going to be so much easier.
Yeah, but I stuck to exactly what I would do for 170, and because I didn't want, something weird to happen.
Yeah.
And so it made it really easy. We made weight, going through everything. And what was really cool, what I was thankful for was on this particular for the fight night was doing the ceremonial weigh-ins.
I was so happy you got to do the ceremonial for your first one.
Because sometimes they don't for fight nights.
Yeah,
and
sometimes
stuff.
they don't. And then also, for your first one, of course, any UFC fight is special, even if it is at the Apex. But you fought at the Apex on the Contender Series. You already have a win in there. And I really wanted you to have that full UFC experience for your first one of doing the ceremonial weigh-ins and just like all of it. And you got to experience every bit. And what a cool, sold out crowd.
Yeah, I mean,
could not have been cooler.
Yeah, I think when it was all said and done, that fight night had broke the record for the UFC gate in North America. And I felt every bit of the electricity. But one thing I was waiting for like the whole week, and I thought I would experience it in the ceremonials, was the like nerves to really get to me, and like, of course I know how to fight through those nerves. I know how to channel myself with all that, but I was just waiting for that.
Yeah.
And I thought it would happen there, and it was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like,
I knew in the back when you're all in the back, and then I tried to talk you, not that you needed it, but I was just telling her, okay, so you're all gonna line up.
yeah.
This helped me when for my UFC debut, I had my coaches and corners just prep me with what's going to happen. So I just knew in my mind what the checklist would be.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all gonna line up. I'm gonna be here. My opponent's gonna be directly behind me. We're gonna be next to each other, and then you walk through the curtain, you go on stage, and I just knew once the curtains opened, because I could hear the crowd.
Yeah.
And even at the weigh-ins, there's not always a huge crowd presence at weigh-ins, the ceremonial.
Yeah.
This one was awesome.
Yeah.
They showed up and they were loud and epic. So when you walk through the curtains to go do the ceremonial and everyone's freaking out, I was like, oh, he's just gonna just love this whole moment.
And that's exactly, it was you think, oh shit, all these people there, is that when the nerves are gonna hit? But like I said, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
It was so fun and just gave me so much good energy, and just being up there and finally finally getting to have the UFC uniform, because this is something I've wanted and worked for a long time. Obviously, I'd went a different direction after the Contender Series, and but in my heart, I knew one day where I wanted to be. And to be honest, I had given up on that dream. I didn't think it was ever gonna happen, being in Bellator, fighting for the Bellator World Championship. I'd come to terms with, okay, this is who I am. I'll be a Bellator fighter or whatever. And like I've said to so many people, the me losing the middleweight title fight was the best thing that could have ever happened to me mentally, and then obviously, you know for the position that it ended up getting me aligned to.
So, and I know this is a complicated question, not really, but do you feel you would like be more accomplished ending your career as a Bellator champion or being a UFC fighter?
Just being a UFC fighter. Yeah. I Not to take anything away, and I don't want to make it sound like I wasn't thankful for my opportunities in Bellator, and because that definitely is not the case. It just I wanted this feeling. I wanted the feeling of going out, and this is really like petty and funny to say, but so many times out in public,
This is so funny.
we run into people and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're the UFC fighter. You fight UFC. I've seen you on TV." And it's such a weird thing for me to say, like, yeah, you probably see me on TV, but yeah, I fight for Bellator. I'm not a UFC fighter. And every time I say that, it would make me like cringe, like, fuck,
Yeah. Or it's like just when like people come up, they're like, "Bro, you do UFC, right?"
Yeah.
And it's like, well, which
Yeah,
what they mean.
exactly. But and the funny thing is it was right when we landed in Seattle. Of course,
Yeah.
we get recognized and someone comes up. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're a UFC fighter, right?" And I finally was able to say, like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm fighting this weekend. And although it's still kind of weird because I didn't think it was right to say I was a UFC fighter until I make the walk and I get in the cage and do it. But it was, yeah,
You
one
signed the
of those.
contract.
Yeah, one of those things. So yeah, to go back to your question, I would trade being the Bellator middleweight champ. I would trade that in to just make one
For
walk
an
to the
opportunity
UFC.
in the
Yeah,
UFC.
all day
Yeah.
long. Didn't matter, the outcome of the fight. Thank God it was what it was.
Mhm.
But yeah, 100% just to be able to call myself, forever and always that.
Yeah. Yeah. So fight happens, obviously. Iconic moment. You're walking out. I need to go back. I really wish, like, I need to find your walkout footage.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I'm excited, but all of a sudden I'm like, here they come. And I just start crying. And I'm like, no, suck it up. Like, I'm supposed to be a corner. But I'm like so happy for you. And your song was iconic. And it's like, okay, here come the tears. So I was like, motherfucker. And I'm just trying to like suck it in.
Yeah.
So I finally got myself together. And then I see Ed Herman, and he's like, an old friend of ours, an old training partner.
Legend in the UFC.
Legend. And he's like, Austin. So you give him a hug. I give him a hug. And I'm like, here comes the tears again.
Yeah.
And give you your kiss, do your little thing, go get in the cage. And then I felt better. It was like business time.
Then it was business, right?
Business.
Yeah.
Going to the corner. I wish they had a corner cam because it was I kept my composure for the most part.
Yeah.
And stayed in my seat. And then it was the end of the first round. You had him in head and arm.
But let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back.
Okay.
Because especially us both being competitors and cornering each other and stuff. What were your feelings like after I walked into the cage? Like, because I'd asked you before. I know that day you had a moment of being really nervous before we got to the facility and the arena. When were you nervous at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was nervous.
When did the nerves hit you first?
I wasn't nervous that you weren't good enough or like that your opponent was too good. I wasn't fearful of what he had. I was fearful. I just wanted you to show up.
Yeah.
And not to like get overzealous in the moment or feel like you needed to go out there and rush things and finish right away or get a knockout to prove yourself. I just wanted you to show up as yourself like you do in training every day, because I knew you'd win.
Yeah.
I just didn't want the moment to be too much. And of course, it wasn't that I thought it would be. I just wanted you the best for you.
Yeah.
And for you to be proud of like how far you've come and proud of your performance no matter what happened. And I think that's what I was the most nervous about, is just I wanted you to show up.
Yeah. Because I know for me, you know, being on the other side, cornering you and doing all that stuff, definitely the nerves are at the height when it's like an hour away from
Yes.
getting called to go down to head over to the arena and stuff. That's when for me it's like, fuck, okay, here we go. The moment we walk into the arena, every single time it's like switch. It's business. And that's how I feel. I do go through a little bit of nerve too when after you walk out, and we're there's kind of like a little bit of downtime. We're waiting for the opponent to walk out and stuff, and then you know I start kind of processing things like, okay,
well, it's like that downtime where it's like you're waiting for the opponent to walk out, so then it's like you're just like when you're waiting in that
waiting,
like, in the
right?
state of waiting where you're just like trying to keep your nerves at bay.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, when he's walking out, and I was like, you know what, and this is so funny, I was expecting him, because he was from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
I expected him to walk out to some sort of like traditional music, and I was like playing it in my head, and then he walked out to like a familiar just kind of like a mainstream American pop song, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, because there's just something that is really scary about like those like, you know,
yeah,
they're really Dagestanis, and they're just
the Eastern European.
They're terrifying.
Yeah.
And then they walk out to that traditional music, and it just feels like they have an army of their culture behind them.
Yeah.
And then this, for whatever reason, the walkout song of him, I was like, okay.
You know what's funny to me is it's kind of opposite for me.
Oh, really?
I like to hear, because I fought in Russian, you know, some European guys like that before, and I like it when they come out to that. It like fires you up even more. So, yeah, you know, and I think to your point too about you know, me not rushing things and stuff, and being in the big stage, it did the exact opposite to me. It channeled and like focused me in even more. And because I remember some of the feelings in the past of, you know, in Bellator, specifically the ones I lost, where it was less of a focus on what, and it was more of, okay, I'm just gonna go out and try to kill this motherfucker.
And it was just like, it was almost just like you just wanted to get it over with.
Yeah, go and get it finished. I'm gonna go fucking kill this dude. I'm gonna have a highlight real knockout duel, you know. And that's it for me personally. That's not the best version of myself, and for this, I was so focused on what I needed to do. It didn't matter, you know. In my head, I was like, I knew I could finish him in the first, I knew I could finish him in the second or third, but I also knew I could go out and have a war for all 3 rounds and come out victorious like that too. And that was just the mindset going into the whole thing. And so, you know, when I got in there and, you know, they're announcing my name, and the most special part about it was directly from where I was at in the cage, I could look up into the crowd, and the only person I saw was my mom up there. It was like we were in a direct line with each other, and I could see just how happy and so excited happy. And I got to blow her a couple kisses before, and man, it just, it
was amazing.
So of course the fight happens, and you know, I stayed patient. I knew going into this specifically, you know, being short notice, I felt like he was probably the most dangerous in the first round. And because, you know, maybe he had the mindset of, you know, you question, is my cardio, was I prepared enough? Maybe I do got to go out and get a finish right away, because, you know, I can't hold up for 3 rounds, and I'm a high pace fighter and stuff. So, just was patient, and then saw my opportunity. I expected his wrestling to be a little better, and I got the takedown so easy. And
that was when you got the takedown in the first round. I was like, done. My nerves were gone.
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit of nerves when you guys are exchanging, just because he was very talented. He had extremely good striking, great teeps up the middle. And once you got that takedown, I was like, Yes, this is it. And it was like towards the end of the first round, you had that head arm, and he was able to, like, you know, position himself to not get submitted. But there was a moment where I was like, there was 10 seconds left, and I was like, that's all Austin needs. That's all he needs to finish this. And so I'm like, here they come. Here comes my tears. And then I'm like, okay, nope, round's over. Here we go again.
Yeah, and I was cognizant of the time and stuff, and you know, of course, this is something I practice daily, that head and arm submission, and I knew that I didn't want to blow my arms out too much, trying to go for it. I probably could have finished it, I think, if I would have put a little bit more into it, but I was like, no, we're good. I felt the first takedown, that's going to be there all night. And let's just stay on top, finish the round on top, maybe get a 10-8 for this round. And we'll go into the second and do the same game plan. So, and man, credit to Pahumpa and King Mo, because we went out and executed literally everything we worked on for the whole week and got it done like that.
We were practicing the teeps up the middle. We knew those would be thrown the whole week. I feel like we prepared with as little time we had, not even a week. In those 4 days, we really almost executed exactly what his plan would be and what happened in the fight.
Yeah. A lot of check, like long left hooks and stuff. So, so the fight finishes, right? Yes. I end up, they call it the D'Agostini handcuff. I had him in the corner, and I think Pahumpa said I had gotten like 38 strikes off from there, and the fight finished with like 45 seconds left, and I, you know, the guy was complaining, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm so pissed. I didn't even see him push you. Yeah. So you can see in the video, we're up on the curtain of the octagon, and me and Pahumpa and all the coaches, we're all hugging each other, because this is, like, you know, huge for us too. It's exciting. So we're hugging, and all of a sudden, like, I hear everyone go boo and like going crazy. And then I look in and I'm like, what happened? And you're flipping him off. And I'm like, what just happened? What did I miss? And so I start climbing the cage to get in there. And of course, they tear me down and won't let us in the cage to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I was blindsided. I could see, I had my back towards you guys. You know, we're happy.
Yeah, you're coming over to like celebrate with your team.
Yeah, and I could see in the corner of my eye him coming up. And really, I thought he was coming up to just shake my hand and stuff. And then I got fucking pushed. And so I turn around like, what? And so then I push him back. And then, you know, the security gets in and stops. And I do the double flip like, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
And then the crowd just goes crazy.
USA.
Yeah. And I was really happy about, you know, everything that transpired, because it made it more fun, like more you know, it's always fun to get into a little something.
For sure.
Yeah, outside of the fight.
So, of course, everything's fine. The coaches, like, were very friendly of the whole experience. Not really sure where it came from, but, you know, your emotions are high. And at the end of the day, you just shattered his dreams. You just, you know, handed him another loss in the UFC, and that sucks. And funny is, so I have 2 media stories. So you were on your podcast, you were doing some interviews yesterday, and you were like, yeah, we're all juiced up on testosterone. So the headlines, Austin Vanderford admits to being on testosterone.
Which, I probably should have worded that a little different. But the question was, do I feel like he should get cut for that incident? And I've said, you know, I can't remember what I said the first one, but like reflecting back, like, no, I mean, this is, to my point, we're fighters. Like, it's so hard to flip that off, you know, especially
your adrenaline's still high,
especially coming off of, you know, getting beat too. It's like your adrenaline is still high, and people are like, well, you had time to fight then, why didn't you fight? And, you know, and there is that, like, why did he decide to get aggressive then? But
you also had him in a position that he couldn't get out of. And I'm sure he was frustrated. That's a frustrating position to be stuck in.
Yeah. And so yes, I don't think that he deserves to be cut for that incident. If they decide to cut him for losing 2 fights in a row, that's a different story. But again, like, this guy came in and took the fight on 4 days notice too. And credit and thank you to him for stepping up, because we had a few guys who declined and wouldn't do it. So I don't think he should get cut. And he should get an opportunity, and I'm sure he will get another opportunity going forward, because you do a favor for the UFC, and
Yes.
they, 9 times out of 10 are going to do something back, to help you out. So
one of the articles on that was like, I'm looking at the articles after the fight, and this one is one of my favorites. Austin Vanderford in a post-fight scrap after, I didn't open the link, it goes ...
Yeah.
But the first sentence is, known as one of the nicest men in MMA. Vanderford had to show his nasty side after the fact. He stuck up his double middle fingers at his rival. And it's like, it's true, because you're known as like one of the nicest guys. Like everywhere I go, they're like telling me, oh, Paige, your husband is so nice. Like Austin is just the nicest guy. And then I just love that picture of you flipping him off. It's just really funny.
And before too, we're doing the check-ins, like, what's your fight? My nickname's been the gentleman.
Yeah.
And but I was like, nah, I'm gonna drop it for this fight. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna be the gentleman, obviously having no clue what would happen.
Transpire.
Yeah. And so just kind of a little bit of irony there.
A new era for you too.
Yeah.
UFC.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we went, got the job done, and you picture everything, and I do a lot of mental reps on stuff, and you view the outcomes, you think in your head what the outcomes could be. Could I win this way, that way, could I lose, all these things, and of course I envisioned myself finishing him and stuff, but until you do it, it's like something.
Well, then of course, like after your fight, you were the third fight on the card, and your performance was incredible. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you should like just we were itching for that performance bonus.
Yeah, maybe a performance bonus.
But then all of a sudden, here comes Ricky Simone, our old teammate, and you're in post-fight interviews, and the TV's off to the side, and I just see him, get this devastating knockout, and then the rest of the card is just finish after finish after finish after finish.
Yeah, it was like
oh boy,
it was like 7 finishes in a row. Yeah, and it was like Ricky's our old teammate, we love him. But Javid, the guy he knocked out's our teammate here, and an awesome fighter, awesome guy, and so it's one of those things where you're so happy to see it for Ricky, but I was gutted for Javid, and but then there were some also other really cool parts of the fight card. The fight right before me was Eric McConaughey.
Yes.
And Eric McConaughey, I'll go into this story. He fought at 185. He also got a short notice fight. And this goes back to, he and I went to college together. So I wrestled at Southern Oregon. He played football. Fast forward a few years after our collegiate career, we both get into fighting. And I get a call one day like, hey, because I was having a hard time getting fights on the amateur scene.
Especially as an amateur.
Yeah.
With your wrestling pedigree.
So, I get a call like, hey, do you want to fight this guy, Eric McConaughey, at 205? I'm like, Eric McConaughey, I swear I know that name. And lo and behold, it was the kid I went to college with. And so we fought as amateurs. And right after it, some country ass fairgrounds in Oregon, and so the fight with him, it ended, and we got together like, dude, we went to college together, and I was like, dude, come to the gym I'm at. He was at another really small gym. I was like, come over here and let's train together. Let's do this. So we spent a year at this small gym in Oregon. Eventually moved to Portland together, and became best friends, training partners. He was in our wedding. Yep. He was one of my groomsmen. And then as life goes, he ended up moving to Phoenix to train at the MMA lab. And we came out here to Florida. And he actually had retired for a little bit. And I had my break. And then we both kind of like picked back up. And he got the call before me. And, I was so pumped for him. And then for me to get it right after, to be on the same card, was like,
crazy.
Something so crazy.
Both of you to take short notice fights for your UFC debuts. It just was like written in the stars. It was awesome.
Yeah. So that was like another fun little wrinkle to the whole experience and the whole thing and stuff. So yeah, no bonus because too many finishes.
Yeah, lots of finishes. So overall experience at the UFC, you had an amazing time. And of course there was controversy in the main event, but I feel like that's been talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Well, now now I gotta flip from, competitor mode to now corner mode because
Yes.
we have next week Power Slap
Power
coming up.
slap. Yeah. So I got the call. Pretty much they were like, hey, do you want to do power slap? And I didn't even think twice about it. I was one, excited to do it again, but two, I found out you were about to make your UFC debut. And I was just like, let's freaking go.
Yeah.
I was just so pumped. So yeah, we take off on Monday
Yeah.
for Vegas. I'm going back down to 25 for this one. Obviously I've been just working really hard, especially preparing for the GFL,
Yep.
knowing that that's coming in the near future. So I was like, you know what, I need to go down and just compete more around
Yeah.
my competitive weight class. And I think there is something to dieting and really staying strict and on tune, even though power slap is so much different than like a fight.
Yeah.
But it is just staying in that competitive mode
Yeah.
and really feeling my most athletic self going into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think just the discipline alone to keep your weight down is something that helps. And that was like for me going to 170 from 185, it adds just a little something because how disciplined you have to be to
Mhm.
get down to that weight, right?
Yeah, and it's like a mental thing. I know how hard I worked. I know like how strict I've been, and I feel like a competitor and I feel more like a professional athlete because I've been doing everything that I needed to do correctly.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't for the last two power slaps. I mean, I weighed in underweight on both of them.
Yeah.
And I was still training really hard, but for this one I was like, you know what? Let's do 25 and cuz that's where I compete at.
So let me ask you, obviously we had the adrenaline going last week. How do you feel now, like going into, do you like this where I compete right here and then you're gonna compete in a week?
um yes and no.
Yeah, because this
I
was the same thing that happened for your
This
last
happened
one too.
again but I felt like the nice thing about the last Abu Dhabi or like the power slap where I fought in Abu Dhabi, it was
Yeah.
you competed and then I competed like 6 days later. So
Yeah.
it felt like one continuous fight week.
Yeah.
Now it's like you fought. I feel bad. Like I want to be celebrating with you. I want to be going out and like having a drink and riding the high with you. And I feel bad like you're not having your moment to like really thoroughly enjoy the win because
Yeah.
now it's like now we're back into business mode and I compete soon. But um
I don't feel that way though.
okay, that makes me feel good.
Like for me, especially too, like the older I've gotten in my career, definitely I'll admit, earlier in my fighting career, it was like, okay, we get a win and we go party and have
Yeah.
fun. Um, I've just got such a different mindset. Like now I'm itching. If I got a call right now to ask me to fight, I would be so happy. Like that would make me more happy than just celebrating right now.
Yeah.
Like all I want to do is just be back in the gym and
Get back to work.
even if I'm not training, like getting the mental reps in, watching
Yeah.
you and all this. So for me, I'm happy because I'm this is the way I like to celebrate, and this is how I want to do things right now,
Mhm.
and I also like the idea of, we had success last weekend. We're kind of riding that confidence, that success
Yeah.
into your competition now, and I think there's something to be said with
I think
that
so
too.
too. Yeah. No, I'm excited. It feels good. Of course, the travel was nuts. We,
Yeah.
took a red eye and got home yesterday early morning and, still had a lot of stuff to do to close off, your fight week.
Yeah.
And now it's like now we open up mine and it's the process. It's like the doctor's appointments and medicals and travel and this and that is just
Yeah.
kind of the stuff that's not that fun. But
Agreed. Yeah.
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 It's just a lot. But I know once we show up to Vegas, I'm gonna be so pumped
Yeah.
just to do it again and be back and see everybody that we just saw last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. It's like we're traveling around with the
Traveling,
UFC team.
right?
Yeah, so you compete March 7th
Yep.
in Vegas at the Fountain Blue. Gonna be fun. And then we've got tickets. We're gonna go watch. Is it 313? Yeah, we're gonna go watch 313,
Which I'm so excited for.
Pereira and Ankalaev. And yeah, unfortunately the co-main event just fell out
I saw
this
that.
morning. Yeah,
Mhm.
Gaethje and Dan Hooker.
I saw there was a few people trying to opt for the spot. Didn't I think is Henan Barao that weight class? Am I
No,
wrong? Or no,
yeah,
I'm thinking of
Charles Oliveira.
maybe. I don't know. I
There's
just
Armand, Charles. I know Gamrot, one of our teammates, Mateus Gamrot. He was lobbying to try to get on,
yeah, I
but
had seen a few people trying to lobby for it. So there's a chance it gets filled.
yeah,
Maybe.
and that's an interesting one too because Justin Gaethje, obviously, that dude goes out and literally, the saying that motherfucker leaves a piece of him in the octagon every
Every
single
time.
time, and he's only got a couple of these left, so it'll be interesting to see, what they decide, what they present to him. I mean, the dude's a fighter and there's no question he's gonna take whatever, but with the mindset now where, he's got like 2 fights left, is he going to take just any fight like a guy like Mateus Gamrot, who's a really heavy grappler?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be necessarily the firework fight that he's used to. Like, if they present that, is he going to take that and go with it, or is he going to opt to, wait for Dan Hooker or something? So
Yeah. I don't know. I just seeing him as like the athlete and competitor he is. He seems like an anywhere, anytime, anybody
100%.
person. So
Yeah.
I could see him taking whoever they offer.
Yeah.
And no matter what, being exciting. But yeah, I don't know what the right move is in his position, like the correct move to think through, or if it's just to go out there and fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because he's got that legacy and
Yeah.
stuff. The main event, Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. I had seen, I think it was from I know a few people have said, but like Chael and DC in specific have kind of criticized Pereira because I think he's been traveling a lot, right? And
He's been
not
traveling a lot, and I think he was like sparring still recently is one of the other things that was brought up.
Yeah. So there's a couple chains of thought. And a guy like Magomed, he's in Dagestan, just, off, locked himself up and, I'm preparing for something like this. Alex has had all this success but maybe this is a situation too where this is what Alex feels good fighting for him. He's had all these pro kickboxing fights. He's arguably the most popular guy
Well,
in
and you
the
think
UFC
about
right
him, and
now.
you do think about like those Thai fighters, people,
Yeah.
kickboxers. They just compete constantly all the time, where it really just becomes second nature. It's just a
Yeah.
part of life. So maybe those like little meticulous things that fighters think about or MMA fighters think about, they're just not really a big deal for somebody who's had that much experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be a really interesting fight. Magomed's obviously a really good striker, but he's got the grappling aspect,
Yeah.
that Dagestani wrestling and stuff. So um yeah, it's tough. I don't know who wins that one. As everyone has seen, like how good Alex is, and he is the scariest guy in the UFC. It's going to be an interesting fight.
Yeah, he's a scary man. He's a
Yeah.
scary man. All right. I had a whole bunch of other stuff for us to talk about.
Okay.
But I mean, we can touch base too when we get back from Power Slap.
Yeah, for sure.
I think because
Let's
of course
go into.
I want to talk about GFL.
I was gonna say let's go into the GFL.
Okay. So obviously GFL, brand new promotion.
Yeah.
I think people are finally getting like a sense of like what it is now, because they came out of nowhere and then all of a sudden we're just signing everybody.
Yeah.
And I was in Abu Dhabi for my last Power Slap when we first heard about it, and
it was like, yeah, there's this new promotion. It's the GFL. And it was the first time you heard about getting a contract. Like, oh yeah, they're interested in you too. We're like, the GFL going on,
brand new promotion. I was like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, actually, we ran into Uriah Faber.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, they've thrown your name around. They said that you're signing with them. I'm like, I haven't
even heard shit. Yeah.
No. Which, lo and behold, they were probably just talking about management team and, working on that behind the scenes before they presented me with anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if he's heard about it, there's something there. Like, obviously it's coming around to the MMA community, and made me an offer. And I was like, yep. I'm good.
Yeah, as soon as we got the offer, it was, hey, would you go back to MMA? Would you be
Yeah,
interested?
well,
And
especially because I did have other options on the table of what I could do. And of course, my heart's in MMA and I want to go back at MMA, but it was like, do I want to sign with a unknown promotion that's brand new that, I don't, there's no like established like they just haven't been established yet. Like, do I want to go with something like that? And then all of a sudden we saw who their president was, which is Darren.
I don't know his last name, but he was the
World Series of Fighting president, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's the president. And we're like, okay, well, that's a recognizable name. Somebody who was very successful in World Series of Fighting. That's really big. And all of a sudden we saw their breakdown and their game plan. And I'm like, dang. All right.
Interesting,
this
right?
is interesting. So I'm so excited, honestly, to go back into MMA and being an American Top Team and having my coaches feel so confident in me and my training. I had sparring today and I felt incredible and it was really exciting. And they have an interesting formula. So they're basically trying to emulate like a true like NFL season.
Yeah.
So there's teams. I got drafted to Team Miami, which is great because I live in Florida.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, so I thought when there would be a fight card, it would be one full team versus one full team.
Is it not that?
No.
Okay, so that's news to me right now too.
They're making all these fight announcements and it's not team versus team at the beginning. It's just
okay.
I'm fighting somebody from this city and somebody else is fighting from this city. So it's going to be all mixed around on one fight card.
Gotcha.
But they're going to follow like the NFL schedule. So it'll be a card on a Sunday and a Monday. So they'll have 2 cards back to back, 2 days in a row.
Crazy. Yeah.
So the first one will be 2 days in a row. It'll be Sunday and Monday. And I believe it's it's a point system. So for your team, the total points given is always 4.
Yeah.
So me and you fight each other. I win. And a decision. It's 3 points to 1.
Okay.
If I win in like a finish, I believe it's 4-0.
Okay.
No matter what, a decision would be 3 points to 1. A finish is 4-0.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if it matters how many rounds there are.
Yeah, probably not if they're doing it like that.
Draw is 2-2.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I had the idea that it was going to be kind of like a wrestling duel. Like, you've got your women's 125, 135, 145, whatever. And then like the men's 125. And then you do a duel like, Team Miami versus Team Dubai and like that. But it's not, huh?
It's not, no.
Okay.
But the things that they're offering, I mean, they're truly taking care of fighters. Like we're going to get a pension where it's a true revenue share. So 50% goes directly back to the athletes. There'll be team owners. So eventually we'll have like somebody will buy Team Miami.
So we could buy Team Miami?
Well, no, we can't.
Oh, okay, damn it.
I was going to pitch it to Dan Lambert, though. Dan Lambert could buy Team Miami.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen some of the figures that teams are going for, and no, we're not there yet.
Damn it. Okay, yeah.
We're close.
Really, not even after my last fight, we can't.
We're close, but we ain't there yet. Eventually we'll own a team.
Okay, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. Obviously, there's huge names in it. Seems like they're making all the right moves so far, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We've said and talked about, I think the most important aspect of this is how the first couple fight cards go. And then everything, it's a navigation system and seeing how everything goes. But if it can work out, it's a really fun, like cool idea. And especially, some of the other promotions seems like are kind of going down in a not going down, but
Bellator and PFL. There's no Bellator anymore. Now you just have PFL. So there is movement as far as the rest of the MMA organizations. We still have like ONE FC, which is a great standout one, but they're based in Asia. Yeah. And then we have obviously the UFC, which is, international, but there still isn't a company that's figured out how to truly be competitive with the UFC. And I believe that this formula that they have in place puts them in a position where they believe they could.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. So we were thinking you were going to be in April.
I believe May.
But now I think things changed a little bit and it's kind of looking like towards May or something for that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Actually, let me read what they sent me if I'm allowed to talk about when the first card is.
Yeah.
We're excited to hear some key updates. I think we should be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and it's May 11th and 12th.
Okay.
In Los Angeles.
Yep. That's what we're looking at. And
yeah,
going to be fun.
Of course, if I get feedback that we're not supposed to talk about that, we'll cut it. But I think we're good.
Yeah. And hopefully too, after that, I'll be around maybe the same time, like in May or June. So that's what
I would love for you to fight before me or no, after me.
Yeah.
Let's switch things up.
Yeah, we'll switch things up for this next one. But
let's just flip flop it. All kinds of exciting stuff. So back into training, getting ready for both of those. For me, obviously, you'll get another fight. Now that you're under the UFC roster, things should be a little bit more calculated. I hope, even though that one was on short notice, and you'll pretty much take anything short notice. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna stay ready and all that, but hopefully we'll get a full fight camp for my next one. But if not, we'll be ready to go.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll get back to training, and I have a bunch of other stuff I think in the MMA fight community we can talk about next week. But we'll touch base either one more time before I power stop or right after.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that was a kick-ass love story with Paige VanZant and
Austin Vanderford,
UFC superstar Austin Vanderford. UFC debut. Find us on it's been a minute since I've done this.
Yeah.
On YouTube, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Spotify, OFTV. Am I forgetting anything else? Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern time.
We'll see you there.
Bye.